Hello, we're Guy and Sarah, and this is Pedalling Past, the channel where we guide you through some of the wonderful sights and historic areas of Britain on bike, because I firmly believe that that's the best way to see them. So today we're in the market square at Boroughbridge, medieval marketplace, but it's a town with really deep prehistoric and very important Roman roots as well, which we'll be going through later. But we're taking a 35-kilometre, nice and gentle, not remotely hilly loop out towards Ripon. Again, another very important medieval cathedral town, and we're going past Roman remains, old shrines, all sorts of back routes and interesting spots on the way. So it's very suitable for all sorts of riders. You can do it, there's a version that you can do on a road bike, no problem at all. We're going to include some little bits of farm track just because they add an extra nature reserve and some old lime kilns, which I hope you find interesting. But it's a superb ride for entry-level cyclists, beginners, kids. Anyone who can get on a bike can pedal this route. So without further ado, we're going to hop on the tandem and start pedaling through the pass. So as you can see, Boroughbridge, great place to start off. You know, fill your boots at a tea room, I'll get some snacks. And we're going out past the Crown, which in its day had stabling for 100 horses. Because it used to be a real critical point on the coaching trip up the Great North Road. As you can see, that house ahead, that's where we start joining the Great North Road. And there's the Crown there, massive stables. And used to take 10 days from Soho to Edinburgh, taking this route. Or 12 days in winter by stagecoach. So, and now we're on the old Great North Road itself. But luckily, they've bypassed it. Didn't that used to be a really good sweet shop, Sarah?
That black and white one there. Oh, Mrs. Paul Sweet Shop.
Very fond memories then.
Very.
And here's the old bridge. And just north of here was the site of the Battle of Boroughbridge. It had already been ransacked by the Scots a little earlier, 1318, and then in 1322 was the site of a battle between Edward II's troops and the Earls of Lancaster and Hereford. Although unfortunately, poor old Earl of Hereford came to a rather sticky end. He was crossing the bridge and got stabbed underneath by a spearman. So the whole enterprise didn't go that well. Although military history fans should note it was the first use of longbowmen to defeat heavily armoured cavalry. Of course, became a bit of a theme for British armies from then on. See Cressy and Agincourt for details. But yeah, we're just gonna slightly busy road out of town. But then we're going to head straight off it now towards Newby Hall. We've just come out through Langthorpe, past the farm where they lent us the Rolls Royce that Sarah and I had for our wedding, on account of me correctly naming a penny farthing an ordinary when we were interviewed by Mammy and Pappy at the farm there. Cracking old couple. Although I do believe they said we were too young to get married at 28, didn't they, Sarah?
They certainly did. Said we hadn't lived enough life to be getting married.
So, you know, we're trying to catch up with the whole adventure through dementia thing now, and hopefully they'll improve. But you can see beautiful farmhouses, farmland, nice, quiet, wide, open rolling roads already, and that's pretty much the theme of this whole ride. It's just classic rolling English countryside. So, let's crack on. We're rolling into Newby Hall. As you can see, proper picturesque Downton Abbey-ness. And there's the house itself. Grade 1 listed building is Newby Hall. Built in 1697, possibly with some help from Christopher Wren. They've got a miniature railway, beautiful ornamental gardens, a boating lake, which our kids have fallen into numerous times. It's a fantastic place to come with a family. So whether you're riding while they get offloaded somewhere or you bring the kids with you, which we'd thoroughly recommend on this route as it's a flat and simple one. And yeah, it's a proper nice spot to stop off and enjoy. But we're going to swing through now and out towards Ripon. Hashtag perfect rural English riding.
So I went to primary school in this area, and one of my best friends at primary school was called Sarah, and she lived in this house here. Oh, you can't really see it now, just a minute. There. And she had a nanny who wore jumpsuits and had Farrah Fawcett hair, and I thought she was the most gorgeous creature I'd ever met in my life. And she had a TR7, and we used to take it in turns to sit in this TR7 and go up and down the drive of that beautiful house, which is one of my fondest childhood memories.
There's the River Ure.
And there's the River Ure.
Now we're coming past Ripon Racecourse.
Yep, this is Ripon Racecourse. We're just going past now. The Pride of Ripon Scenic Cruises. That looks a huge amount of fun, especially if you've got kids. And here we are, living the dream in Yorkshire.
And here we are, having a cup of tea in Ripon. So, first mentioned by Bede, although there's, as you'll see so far, there's Roman remains already. There's a massive prehistoric Cursus monument up at Sharrow, just north of here. So again, really, really rich area historically. So there was a wooden church here, and then it was rebuilt in stone in 672 during the Anglian period. It was a big centre in the Viking period. And the Normans gave it a bit of a thrashing in harrying in the north. And then this beautiful Gothic cathedral behind me was built from 13th to 16th century, and actually survived, as you can see, not being damaged by the, because it wasn't monastic, it still survived through to the current day. Although Ripon didn't actually become a city until 1865, and it's still a very, very small city. It's a very, very important centre for the woolen cloth trade locally, and also trading, lead mining and all sorts coming down from here. And we'll be going through to the market square through there, and again, a couple of bike shops here, great place to restock, have a cup of tea. We've just stopped at the Cathedral View Cafe here, and there's 3 museums as well. There's a courthouse museum, a workhouse museum, and a police and prison museum, where apparently they have interactive activities to help you understand the sheer horrors of the Victorian prison experience. Sounds like great fun for all the family. Oh, and there's loos as well, which is always important when you're bike touring, especially if you're stopping for cups of tea often like we are. And also, if you're in Ripon, you might see a lot of reference to Ripon Rowells, which is the local sort of community charity club, but also that comes from the rowel being a spur, because Ripon was famous for its spurs. They even made a particularly ornate pair for King James I when he stayed in the city in 1617. So, top Spurs trivia there, if you need to get a gallop on with your pub. And now we're heading out of Ripon, over Gallows Hill, which is where the criminals used to hang around. Okay, so we've got a bit of a busy crossing on the main road. Actually, we got lucky. So we're rolling straight across. But as you can see, there's a nice little cycle path anyway. And it's just the nicer way to get back out over the ring road. Now we're off into the village of Littlethorpe. Now we're actually crossing over the alignment of the old Thirsk to Leeds railway line. So we'll be zigzagging around that as we head south. Nice little quiet village. It's Littlethorpe. It's got a pottery as well, so you can go and get all manner of clay things from them. You can see this is the heart of the old medieval village here, and just loads and loads of villages like this around here, and little quiet lanes joining them together. So although this is obviously our advised route, there's all sorts of ways you can cut the cake around here, and all equally pretty. Coming under bridges and embankments like this, you realise what even a local railway, what a big undertaking it was, and how vital they were for trade and connecting places up. Really was a revolution in the mid-19th century when they started putting those in. And the good news is, there's actually a campaign to get that reinstated as a cycle route, joining the existing railway path out of Harrogate, which goes to Ripley at the moment, but hoping to extend that not only up to Nidderdale via Pateley, but potentially north to Ripon as well, which would be a wonderful resource. So keep you posted with how that goes. And now we're rolling down Hungate in Bishop Monkton,
And the national cycle route actually takes you straight on back to Boroughbridge in this direction. It's 5 miles from here, so if you wanted to stay on the road, you just carry on this way. But we're just taking a loop through the village, A, to put you on that potential loop, but also take you past the pub if you need a pint or a pee. And then we're just going to add a little bit on from here, which gets us another nice little classic English village, and also a little bit of off-road with some old lime kilns in the nature reserve. So we're just diving around here past the Easter Bunny. It's Easter Sunday, in case you're wondering. He's not there all year round. Yeah, classic English village layout this, with the stream running down the centre. Very, very pretty. Is Bishop Monkton, and Bishop Monkton was actually first mentioned in the 10th century as the town of the monks, although interesting, there's no kind of priory or monastic ruins there as far as anyone can tell. But anyway, we're just rolling into Burton Leonard now, up this nice quiet back way, and now we're rolling into Burton Leonard. Across the village green, you got the well there, you got a pub, got a village shop, does coffee as well, so another nice little mid-rice oasis. There's the village green and up the hill. Then we're heading south, and this is another little optional detour. If you don't want to take the farm track route, then just turn left there, but we're just going up here, and it gets us a little bit of farm track fun with some very, very picturesque bits and a nature reserve as well. So just a couple of extra kilometres I've added on, but as you can see, nice rolling road option over there if you want to take a lovely picnic spot, then go down to the nature reserve in the lime kilns down there. Afternoon.
Hi.
But we're off down. Little bit of gravel. Again, nothing too severe. I mean, you could, if you're careful, ride this on a road bike, but obviously best you're on a gravel bike or a hybrid. And to be fair, it doesn't even get muddy in winter, so it's a year-round option, is this, if you're feeling like you need a bit more adventure. But hope you'll agree that the little view and the ford at the bottom are worth the excursion. Thanks very much. I always come here when I want a nice backdrop. I've got a bike test photo to do with my normal work. So, you fancy getting your feet wet, Mrs. Kay?
Not particularly. Not
No, I can't do that to you today.
Thank you.
Oh, it is nice and cobbly on the bottom, but be careful with the slippery bits. Not too deep, actually. And if you're wondering what I mean by farm track in this instance, quite literally just slightly cobbly, slightly sheepy. Oh, that's a fresh one there. Okay, don't worry, Mum, don't worry. Oh, bless you. But yes, not exactly hardcore mountain biking, just a bit off the bleaten. And now we're joining back onto the road route. So it's all one route back in from here. And now we're in the beautiful little Norman church at Copgrove. But this has obviously been a place of worship for a lot longer than this, because over here we actually have an Iron Age carving. It's very, very hard to make out. You need to kind of do a wax rubbing, really. If I shine my phone torch on it a little bit like that. That's Sheila the Gig, a Celtic goddess of fertility. So it's quite interesting. The other church we'll see on this route also has a pagan statue in it as well. At Aldborough, that's got the god of Mercury in there. But yeah, a lovely little stop off. And then, just over there, is St. Mong as well, which was an ancient Celtic site of healing. You can see a beautiful little chapel, this. Proper ancient. Road sign. That's just for cars. So what it means is we've got a nice traffic-free bit of bridleway, roll down, and this actually links up back to the National Cycle Network road that came out of Bishop Monckton, which you pointed out earlier. And as I say, down in those trees down there is the ancient well of St. Munga, or Kentigern, if you're using the Celtic name. So proper old Celtic site there. I mean, there's not much there now. I mean, there's a beautiful hall just beyond those trees, but in terms of remains now, but you know, interesting to see how these folk memories live on in these landscapes. You know, even locally, it's easy to find so much history, and it's so, you know, it's great being able to access it on a bike as well. Just makes it, I think it just brings it alive more. What do you reckon, Mrs. Kay?
I think it's true, because I've once read somewhere, and I can't think where I read it now, but you don't really know a road unless you've cycled it. And I think you get to see the villages with a lot more life in them, and you can smell the smells and hear the sounds and really feel like you've known each place rather than just driving through it in a car.
Yeah, and I think you get more of a perspective of how the people back then would have experienced it as well, because you're passing through it sort of personally, not in a metal box with windows. You know, you're actually out breathing in the air and kind of experiencing it in the way they would have done from horseback or on foot. Well, I think this is a cracking way to travel anyway. So, hope you're enjoying these videos. There's plenty more to come. Now we're rolling through Rowcliffe. It's another final furlong stop if you wanted one there at the pub. But this is where the history really starts to ramp up again. So, as we crest the rise coming into Boroughbridge, we have Devil's Arrow, number 1, and then as we swing in here, we've got the others there. So the Devil's Arrows are Neolithic stroke early Bronze Age standing stones. They were quarried at Plumpton Rocks, about 9 miles away, just south of Harrogate. There was a 4th one there, definitely, although some reports say there were 5 or even 7 stones, and there's another one hidden in the wood just behind Sarah over there. And the alignment is with the midsummer rising, as with most sort of alignments like this, but it's also part of a much bigger ritual landscape which spreads all the way up to Catterick in the north and right down to Ferrybridge. There's this big strip, I mean, basically following the Great North Road as it is known now, but obviously a really important prehistoric route as well. And you know, this obviously had some spiritual significance, or you know, it had some significance. You know, it's always in debate about what these monoliths actually represented. But that one in the middle there is actually the 2nd largest one in England. Only the Rudston monolith over near Bridlington in East Yorkshire is actually taller. And if you take the landscape as a whole, and if you take in the henges at Thornborough, again to the northwest of here, but on this alignment, there's a huge prehistoric landscape here. The whole area is littered with flint remains, pottery. I mean, there's 2 Roman forts over there as well from the crossing of the river, and we'll be going to look at Isurium, which is the old capital of Brigantes, just on the other side of town next. But yeah, the Devil's Arrows. Oh, and as regards to what happened to the missing one, it was dug up looking for treasure, and then it's actually been used as a small bridge across Peggy Beck in Boroughbridge, by all accounts. And if you're not interested in the archaeological background to this, but would like to know the folklore background of it, the devil was stood on a hill over above Fountains Abbey, trying to throw stones at Aldborough town, and his aim was off, and this is as far as he got. Or what was it? What's your version, Sarah? I think I like Sarah's version better.
The story that I was brought up with was that the devil stood on the A1 and he fired lightning out of his fingers, and this caused the Devil's Arrows. So he was very cross and just fired lightning.
Yeah, but you lived just
I lived
just over this fence.
There,
yeah, just over this fence.
And I could
in Druids
see
Meadow.
Them. Yes, Druids Meadow, and I could see them from a previous childhood bedroom window, and I was absolutely terrified of them.
I was going to say, a bit spooky.
It was spooky. I hated them.
Well, I love them. Love a bit of prehistory myself. But anyway, time for some Roman remains, and then I think, yeah, a refuel at the cafe in Boroughbridge.
And where you mentioned that the extra stone, so this is stone number 5, this is...
All right, the missing devil's arrow, this is the bridge.
This is Peggy
Ah, there you go, that's the joy of local knowledge. But now we're going back into the market square, so you could end the ride here, to be fair, but you'd definitely be missing out. Certainly from a historical point of view, because we're going to take a little detour to Aldborough now, or as the Briganti tribe knew it, and then the Romans, Isurium.
Right, so now, hushed tones, because it's a very exclusive area. We're rolling into Aldborough now. Like I say, this was once one of the most important towns in Roman Britain. Right up there with London. It was actually more important than York for a while. And so this whole area is covered with Roman ruins. And there's a Roman museum, but you can remember your archaeology lessons at school were just going into someone's garden and digging it up, weren't they?
Used to find
The thought of this makes me shudder, by the way.
Just up here we used to go, and there was Roman coins.
Roman town and an old pillar. Sorry, Sarah, I interrupted there. Oh, I should probably point out that I'll get in trouble. And this here is where we walked when we were getting married ourselves. Aldborough Church. Like I say, even that's got a God of Mercury statue in there. And then we're coming around to the village green now.
Which has a maypole. Here we are in the beautiful, beautiful village of Aldborough with its maypole. And they still have a maypole festival, a maypole dancing on May bank holiday every year with a May Queen. And the ribbons are tied around the top of the maypole, and there is very intricate dances to make lattice work. And I was always too much of a tomboy, I never did it. But all the girls from Aldborough and Boroughbridge do vie to get a place on the maypole dancing. She's very sought after.
No, sorry, Sarah said she thought we were going the wrong way, but the reason I've come up here is there's a fascinating story about a young girl who went to Cambridge University, and her granddad always used to tell her there were Roman remains up in the field where he took them sledging, which is up the top of Aldborough here, the old sledging hill. And so as she was studying archaeology at Cambridge, she arranged for them to come up and do an archaeological, what they call a geomagnetic survey, where they basically, it's like underground radar for a simpler term. And yeah, so they duly came up, a team from Cambridge University, and they found this is where the Aldborough amphitheatre was. And they reckon there's at least 4 or 5 tiers of seating. It's just over the brow. I mean, it's not a site you can actually visit because it's farmers' fields. But yeah, so this is basically the site of Aldborough's own amphitheatre, which is quite, that's a rare thing in Britain. Certainly. And this is the Aldborough Roman Museum, which is obviously right on the northern edge of the old Roman town. And there's mosaics, there's a little museum of all the finds and artefacts from the area, and some of the remains of the old Roman walls as well. And it's a lovely ornamental garden walk round. And they're open on a weekend, so yeah, the opening times are a little bit hit and miss, but yeah, we're lucky. We're here in summer on the weekend, so we're going to just take a trip inside. But yeah, quite hard to spot the entrance, so keep an eye out as you come out of Aldborough village up towards the crossroads. And now we're actually in, well, not, because that's actually the old Roman walls, so we're just outside Isurium Brigantum now. But a really, really big site, and we're lucky the museum's open on a weekend, so we've had a lovely chat. We've been to see the mosaics as well. I'll pop some pictures up next on those. There were 22 mosaics on this site originally, all in a really nice Victorian landscape garden. So it's only a tiny little museum, but over 2,000 coins found here, and it's just nice. It's just it's not over the top. It's a nice country garden that just also happens to be one of the most important times in Roman Britain, right up there with Exeter, Leicester, Canterbury, all that kind of thing. So well worth a detour. But I think time for a brew.
I'm starving.
Yeah.
So after you've come out of the lovely Roman Museum and you continue pedalling up the hill, you come to Aldborough Crossroads, and on the crossroads there's a little church which is just appearing here now, a little graveyard. There's lots and lots of folklore about this area. Unsurprisingly given. So you can see here where there's this red brick wall on the right. Beyond that is the ornamental gardens for the museum that we've just been in, and also a very large quarry which was used in, I think, up to about Victorian times. And there was always lots of stories that there was wild men living in the woods. And I think that all these stories always appear around crossroads because they're very superstitious for people.
Very witchy, is it not?
Very witchy. And also that was a place where you had people that couldn't be buried in consecrated ground. They were buried at crossroads. So I think that a lot of folklore, and that was apparently where the wild men lived. And I can remember having tales told about wild men that lived in the quarry, which always...
I lived in a quarry once.
You lived in a quarry. So yeah, whether or not it's true, who knows, but I think that the area has a lot of folklore because of the deep and rich history that Boroughbridge and Aldborough has, and it's been really, really lovely to rediscover all these places from my childhood. And I think maybe when you're a child it all washes over you that you live in such a lovely place, and so it's been great to come back and really enjoy it.
So, back now in Boroughbridge Market Square, 35 kilometres, 20 miles later, but literally millennia of history we've passed through on this ride. So I really hope you've enjoyed riding with us. We've certainly enjoyed this route. But obviously if you've got any questions or comments, then please let us know below. Always happy to talk about the routes, or even any of the equipment we've used, or where you might find a shop or a toilet stop or anything like that. For this one we are quite local to the area, so we can give you lots and lots of background on this part of North Yorkshire. But for now, make sure you click for subscriptions, click for notifications as well. That really helps the channel grow, and it lets you know when the next route is published. And if you're on Instagram and Facebook, follow us at Pedaling Past, and also check out the pedalingpast.com website, where we'll be putting up the routes and sort of the photographs I've taken along the way, and some more written perspective as well. And also, I've not said this before, but all the different places we've stopped, I'll put What 3 Words codes in there. If you get on the What 3 Words app, that'll give you an exact reference point for where all these different places are that we've stopped. And I'll put a GPX file in the description. I'll put a link to a GPX file in the description below. We've been Guy and Sarah at
Pedaling Past, and I really hope you've enjoyed riding through history with us.
See you soon.
Bye.